So if you and your squad are facing this screen more often than not, I'm here to give you some hope. It's not all about the gunplay and being able to outgun your opponents. Granted, having that and being able to clutch the firefight feels really good, but with this being a thinking man's first-person shooter, being tactical, you want to make sure that you have a pretty good knowledge and working understanding of the maps. Which operator to play, where to place yourself, and when to engage in firefights is huge, but also having synonymous language to communicate with your teammates and also utilizing your intel capturing devices like drones and cameras is what's really going to help you win the games, especially if you're just now starting the game. If you want more content like this, please subscribe and support the channel. Now sure, understand the two-dimensional map layout can be a huge thing, but for me, I feel like getting in the game and actually experiencing, actually playing it is the best learner. It's going to give you the ability to understand where different camera spots are at or locations where opponents might typically spawn peek you, so you can help watch those things and clutch a kill to an unsuspecting defender. Other times it could be just understanding different ways to outplay and outmaneuver your opponent to help you win more firefights in a creative fashion. Or other times it could be a nice little camping spot or angle to hold that you would have never thought of unless somebody else did it to you first. In saying this, I'm telling you, get in and play the game. That's how you're going to learn which operators you do and don't like to play with, which weapons you do and don't like, and the positions you like to hold and you don't, which ones you like to attack and defend. And honestly, you're going to learn so much from the people that best you. Learn from your losses and take that in the next match and try that strat out if you think it's actually going to be effective against somebody else. Now, communication is key. If you're playing with randoms, this might be a little bit more difficult, but still doable. But if you're playing with your team, having synonymous terms that you use is going to help you out, and being as specific as possible will help. Being able to say, hey bandit, there's a bot coming towards your hallway from the tower. It's going to help out a whole lot more with getting that nice little tricky kill rather than saying, hey, there's a guy with a rifle over by bomb site B. Now again, playing the game more will help you with learning your callouts, specific operators, locations, weapons, and allow you to be specific and to the point. You do want to avoid constant chatter though, because if you're being way too talkative, your teammate might just miss the cue of a diffuser being planted, devices being used, or even footsteps. Now my final point to help you win more games overall is to get better intel. Cameras are so underutilized. Whether or not you're the attacker or the defender, you should be focusing on trying to get as much intel as you can get for your team and diminish the amount of intel that your opponents can have. By doing this, this will help you win more firefights because your opponent will be more in a fog and in the dark, whereas you will be in a spot where your team can be guided through and be able to spot enemies so much easier, to be able to get that edge against those little firefights. If you're the defender, great. Use those static cams the developers put on the map, or use bulletproof cameras, Valkyrie cameras, or Echo. And then also make sure you focus on diminishing your opponents by going through, and whenever it's in the preparation phase, your opponent's gonna be throwing drones at you. Take those bad boys out, and it doesn't matter what operator you're playing. Right here I'm playing Capkin, taking some drones out and doing my job. Now as far as attackers go, you're at an uphill battle. Simply put, you don't start the map with cams, but you have to place them. Now, fortunately, you do have drones at your ability. You have operators like Zero that allow you to place his Argus launcher cams to be able to easily go through, outflank your opponents, and ping them for your friends. Now, as an attacker, you always start the preparation phase in one of your 2 drones, meaning that a 5-man team should have 10 drone cameras available to them, the same amount that the opponents start at. You just get to move your cameras around. You want to go through and try to get them in any place where you can get a good angle on opponents, find traps, and really just give as much intel as possible on which way you should be attacking your opponent. If you don't get your drone in a good place, use that action phase to get your drone somewhere better, and don't be afraid to maybe toss out your second drone when you need to. Now, in some cases, you may not want to give up the position of your initial drone, or you may want to just drone a room that you're not sure what's going on there. We call this an entry drone. This allows you to be a second life and allow you to ping your opponent. Now, one thing I want to tell you about, and I guess a couple things I want to touch on, is first of all, in the middle where it says scan. The moment you go through and start scanning your opponent, your drone or camera or whatever it is you're on will start flashing bright colors where your opponent can easily see it and distinguish it from everything else. So if you're trying to be sneaky, try not to utilize this, but rather utilize your yellow pings, where you can just go through and mark down specific points on the map to say an enemy is here rather than doing the live ping, which is right here at the eyeball. The other side too is if you look on the left hand, you can see how many drones our team has. Now this is a great place to be at because as an attacker you start with only 5, but the moment you can get up to at least the same amount as your opponent, if not more, you are at a better chance of winning because you have more eyes on the targets and you can allow your teammates with better gunplay to actually go in and clear out the opponents. And with that, that's a few tips and tricks to help you win more games of Rainbow Six without having to be the best gunfighter in the world. Hopefully this helped you all out, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye!